Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Boob Talk with your host, Cynthia Rogers. It's Season 3. Come and join the Boob Talk family as we discuss the issues breast cancer and other cancer survivors face. Come along on our journey. We are survivors. Welcome to Boob Talk. I'm your host, Cynthia Rogers. Thank you for joining me this evening. Tonight, our show focuses on keeping our immune system strong through aromatherapy and self-care practices while the pandemic is still ongoing, and just for our optimal health, this should be a goal for us. We have returned special guest, Stacey MCCarthy, certified aromatherapist and self-care coach, and she has 25 years of experience as an occupational therapist. Stacey, welcome back to Boob Talk.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. It is really an honor to be here again, and I have so much to share with your listeners today. Excuse me. So, first of all, I'd like to say that the mission behind everything I do is really to help women reduce their stress. I am such a believer in the mind, body, spirit connection, and I feel that the least amount of stress we have in our life, the healthier we will be. So a lot of my self-care programs are with that premise to give you ideas, strategies, tips, ways to reduce your stress so that you feel better physically, mentally, and spiritually. So, Cynthia, as you know, with my aromatherapy business, I have to say that the most popular blend has become the Immune Booster Blend. You have been using for a few years now, and I have another breast cancer survivor who uses it too and swears by it. And the other number one seller is the Stress Buster, which, was the first popular one, but then as we moved into the pandemic, people were very concerned about their immune system. So these essential oils have become very instrumental in keeping people healthy. So with that said, I want your listeners to know, anyone who is listening to the podcast, if you have any questions about aromatherapy, essential oils, what is it about them that makes them therapeutic? How can these essential oils help build your immune system? I'm happy to answer questions. I'll say, without getting into too much detail, that the oils that I use in the immune boosting blend have an airborne antimicrobial feature to it, which means basically that it will kill the microbes in the air that carry viruses, bacteria, all the things that we want to stay away from, which is why it's so important to have these to diffuse in your home to keep your environment clean and free of all those radicals. And
So, Stacey,
Cynthia, maybe you can...
Yes, go ahead.
Say, maybe you can speak to the aroma of them, of all the different ones that you've tried.
They have a very refreshing smell to them. Some of them just like boost your spirits. They make you feel alive. And, some of them, like with the stress relief, very, very relaxing. And I remember, I think we tried 2 different stress relief blends, and the first blend, I think it just literally it just made me so sleepy, and I couldn't figure out why. And this is when, during the pandemic, I was working from home, and I was very stressed because during the time I was doing a lot of work. So I said, let me put on the stress blend, and then I just noticed, oh my God, I can't keep my eyes open. What is going on? So I talked to you, and then we figured out it was the blend. It was just so relaxing that I couldn't keep my eyes open. So we had to switch to something that had more of, gave me a little bit more energy, but also relaxed me at the same time. So yes, but both blends definitely did relieve stress. So if you're listening out there and you feel that your life is chaotic, especially now during the pandemic and just with everything else going on in your life, I would highly recommend Stacey's Stress Relief Blends.
Well, thank you, Cynthia. And, so many times when people hear aromatherapy, myself included, going back about 7 years or so, think it's just something that smells nice, like the scent of a candle or something like that. But they have very powerful therapeutics, really help you stay healthy, and also affect, it affects all of you, your mood, your spirit, and your physical health. So it's a wonderful adjunct to my self-care coaching practice because they go hand in hand. So it's a really nice enhancement to some of the coaching programs that I run. And I think at the time this is aired, I will have already completed a free master class on simplifying self-care. So that's something I offered in my group, and you're welcome to come join my private Facebook group. It's free, and I have daily content in there. I do a weekly Self-Care Sunday live so that you can come on and join me and interact and ask questions. And I really do provide a lot of free information in there so that people can just understand a little better about self-care. I think one of the myths about self-care is that, it has to be this big entailed, ritual that people do every day. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Self-care really starts with our thoughts. It really starts with raising our awareness of what we're thinking, because our thoughts generate emotions. And then from there, that, affects your whole life, because when you're not feeling good, you're not going to make good choices. And it's just a trickle down. Yeah, it's a trickle down effect. So I'm huge on self-care and stress reduction. And I have lots of opportunities, free and paid, for people if you're interested in learning more about that.
Yes, I wanted to ask you, what was your definition of self-care? Because I seem to notice, I say within the last couple of years, I don't know if it's because of the pandemic, but every time you turn around, it's something about self-care. They have self-care Saturday, self-care Sunday, and, you just hear the phrase self-care frequently now, and I just wanted to get your take as to what self-care means to you.
Sure,
and so it's good that you said
question
about the thoughts, because I never even really thought about the thinking part of it, the mental.
Yeah. So, it's often referred to as mindset work or whatever, but so self-care, the way I look at it, is a huge umbrella, because there are so many different ways to practice self-care, and a lot of it depends on where you are in your life right now. What are you struggling with? So for some people, it is the mindset. That's almost always where we start. So if you're feeling down, you're feeling depressed, you're feeling lethargic, fatigued, the first thing I want to do is ask you, what do you think about when you wake up in the morning? Like, what is the first thing you think about? So many of us wake up every day on automatic pilot. We're not even aware of what we're thinking. So before I really dove into all of this work, I was working a 9 to 5, and I would wake up, and the first thing I would think about are all the things I have to do, all the challenges that lie before me. And so one of the main strategies I have with self-care is to start your thoughts off in the right direction the first thing in the morning, whether that is a gratitude practice. You can do it mentally. I start with the most basic, simple suggestions. When you wake up in the morning, think of 5 things you're grateful for. Focus on them for a minute or two. Really feel into that good feeling. And that just sets your day on the right track, because the more positive thoughts we think, positive ideas and thoughts continue to come. It's just a free association that happens. So when you wake up in the morning and you're not aware of what you're thinking, you're most likely thinking of problems, challenges, things you don't want to do. So the
Yeah.
first thing I always recommend is to switch that around into the things that really bring you appreciation and joy. So that's the first step, and there's so many others. I mean, if you're having difficulty with your physical fitness, your lifestyle, then, you know, we create a little plan for people to do little small actions every day, and there's so many keys to keeping you consistent, and one of them is accountability, which is, you know, I mean, so many of us coaches have coaches to keep us accountable. So when we're left to our own devices, it's easy to put things off, blow things off, slack off. But when you're communicating with someone who's there to support you and encourage you, you perform better. You stick to it. So
That is true.
I hope that answers some of your questions.
Yes. And I was just thinking about, for those of us that are cancer survivors, some of us, when we wake up, we might be in pain. We might not be feeling well if we're going through treatment, or just our mindset. We might not be in a good place. So what type of self-care practices do you recommend for those that might be going through similar situations?
Okay, so first of all, it would be very specific to the individual. However, I would still suggest, even when you're waking up, you're feeling like crap, you might be having side effects from treatment, I would still start with gratitude. I would start with gratitude. What can I be thankful for right now? And I would also ask yourself, what can I do? What can I do today? Because we are naturally inclined to focus on what is not going right, what doesn't feel good. And again, you start with those thoughts and you're going to spiral down. So it's a bit of a challenge. I'm sure. I haven't gone through treatment. I know people who have, and it can be the smallest thing that will switch it's the thoughts. It really starts with the thoughts. If you can first think about, what can I be grateful for today? And what can I do to make myself feel better? It could be reaching out to a friend. It could be getting up and taking medications. It could be, I'm grateful I'm still here. I'm grateful I am fighting this. It could be affirmations, mantras. It could be a daily reading. So, when it comes to physical symptoms, some of them, those aren't all mindset. Some of those may require self-care activities that may have been recommended by your doctor. It may be, like I said, some type of medicine or something to help deal with the pain or the nausea or whatever you're experiencing. And believe it or not, aromatherapy can address some of those things as well.
I was just thinking about when I was going through chemo. I had good days and bad days, and I was trying to be, for the most part, upbeat and positive, but some days, you just can't, because you just don't feel like it. So, I would allow myself to feel whatever it was I'm feeling, but then maybe the next day I would have a goal for myself. Okay, let me see if I can get up today and take a shower. And, just every day in between, my chemo treatments, I did and now that you say that, I didn't even realize that that's what I was doing, but I would just try to set certain goals for myself so I could start to try to feel better. So I was practicing self-care at the time, and I guess didn't even realize I was doing it.
Yeah. Good for you. And, the other thing I want to say about that is part of self-care is also acknowledging your feelings and allowing yourself to feel them. So like you said, you would allow yourself to feel sad or whatever emotions come up. I mean, dealing with cancer is huge, and there's all kinds of subconscious beliefs that we have before we're even afflicted with it. So it's important, I think, to acknowledge what you're feeling in the moment and go ahead and feel it. But like you said, kind of give yourself like, okay, today this is how I'm feeling. I'm falling apart. I'm just going to allow myself to do that. And then you can give yourself a time frame. The second after lunch, I will do one thing that will lift me up. I will do one thing that may help me feel better, whether it's, like I said, reaching out to a person, someone close to you for support, journaling, meditating, reading a scripture or a daily reflection. So that was a good point that you brought up, Cynthia, because I absolutely believe that we have to feel our feelings to get through to the other side. So there's no like putting on the happy face and pretending everything's okay.
Yes. At least I can't function that way, but I know a lot of people do that, and that's not healthy either. Then I think that probably just causes added stress to your life.
Absolutely. I think whenever we deny what we are truly feeling, you're just adding a layer of stress. And I strongly believe that crying is a wonderful emotional release that detoxifies the body. I think it's essential. That's my personal belief. And some people, they're not criers per se, but whatever way it is that you can release those emotions, the angst, the fear, the worry, the pain, the discouragement, whatever it is you're feeling, find an outlet to charge that. And you'll feel lighter on the other side. Would you agree when you allowed yourself the time and space to actually process the feelings?
Yes, definitely. And now that you mention that, I'm either a talker, depending on what's going on, or a crier. Usually I'll just maybe let things build, and then I'll cry. And then once I cry, then I feel so much better. I feel like a weight has been lifted. So that is a very good point. You know, you feel the weight being lifted off of your shoulders when you just release it. So, and I just want to say, for those that are going through stressful situations, we want to encourage you to try to find a healthy outlet, because a lot of times when you become stressed, we pick up maybe not too good habits, whether it's drinking or turning to substances. So, you know, try to find a healthy outlet.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you just mentioned that, because I did a live in my group a few days ago talking about the fact that even though I teach self-care and it is a practice, you know, I don't do it perfectly. I don't do it perfectly every day. I wake up and do everything I teach. You know, I'm human. And what got me to this point was doing the things that didn't work, you know. So my video was talking all about, you know, when we think we're taking the simple, easy way out by overindulging, too much alcohol, we shop too much, we, you know, binge out on Netflix. All those things seem easy in the moment, but all they do is compound the pain or the emotions that you're trying to soothe. Because, you know, the next day you're not going to feel good because you gained weight or because you're hungover or your credit card bill came. So, yes, I mean, yes, so true. And trust me, I've done every which way, and I'm so happy I found another way. Yeah, we've all done it. We've all done it. Our society promotes it.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. So that's a very good point. And, you know, and I'm also a big believer in don't beat yourself up. If you make a poor choice, we always get to choose another one. We always get to choose another way. I don't believe anymore, because I did it for a long time when I was younger, beating myself up for poor choices. It doesn't serve you. So if you've made a poor choice, go easy on yourself, accept it, and decide to make a better choice next time.
That's true. As I always say, tomorrow's a new day. So, you know, if you've had a bad day, you're not feeling your best, there's always a new day to start over. So that is a good point.
Absolutely.
Now, I wanted to ask you, Stacey, how did you become involved with self-care? All of a sudden, I realized you were a self-care coach, and I thought, Stacey, how did this happen? Tell me about the transformation.
Yeah, oh, my gosh. So much has happened since I first came on the show. So self-care and personal growth and development has been a passion for me my whole life. I'm just extremely curious by nature. I've always been curious about what makes people behave the way they do, what makes people make the choices they do, the whole, you know, like neuroscience, like how our brain works. So anyways, so that's been going on forever. And then in 2020, when the pandemic, right before the pandemic happened, I lost my job, and I had been kind of considering doing some type of coaching, but honestly, I had a fear because that was completely out of my element. You know, I've always worked a traditional job, but you know, when the pandemic hit, it was like nothing was the same anymore. So I started with the aromatherapy because I was already somewhat established. I built my website and I started doing that. I started working with a coach. And I realized when I got really, really honest with myself, I wanted to coach. I've always wanted to coach. And I felt that I needed, you know, a degree or a certification in coaching. And I learned that that's not necessarily true, because life experience, I believe, is just as valuable, if not more so, than a traditional education. Yeah. So all of the things that I teach in self-care, like I said, is because I did all the other ways that don't work first. So I can speak to someone who is struggling, who is doing all the, you know, instant gratification things to feel better, and they're not working. And I feel very passionate about showing people another way. There is another way to have sustainable fulfillment. And there's a lot of inner work that goes along with that. It's not as simple as changing one thought in the morning. Everybody's at a different part of their journey. And so I try to meet people where they are and you know, bring them up from there. So, yeah, the whole self-care coaching, I started just coaching and not, you know, it took me a little while to kind of narrow down who I wanted to work with and what my message was. And it always came back to self-care. I believe that is at the core of keeping ourselves fulfilled and happy. We have to take care of ourselves first. It's an inside job.
That is what I was going to ask you. No, we didn't. And I was just going to ask you about how does balancing your mind, body, and your spirit with the self-care practices, how does that help us also with getting optimal health and wellness?
Once again, it comes down to the stress. So when we are not being our authentic selves, and that is a process in itself. So many times we'll have thoughts of things we want to do or we'd like to do, but usually it's fear that stops us. So we deny that within ourselves. And every time we deny who we really are, who we really want to be on a really deep soul level, we're creating more stress because we are pursuing life from what we think we should be doing, what we think others will approve of, when it really comes down to being our true authentic selves. And for me, what I have found is freedom. When we finally get through the layers of who we think we should be, what we think we should be doing according to everybody else, once we get through that, we work through those layers and we get to the core of who we really are, that's when we experience that freedom. And in that freedom is health and wellness, because we're no longer covering up ourselves with these layers of denial about who we want to be and who we could be. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And again, the key word, stress. And stress, as we all know, can cause illness. And I believe that there was a report out a couple of years ago saying that if you have a high level of stress, it can increase your risk of getting cancer by 11%. So we all know that stress can cause illness. It can be a cause of cancer. So we want to try to reduce our stress levels as much as possible. And I know for myself, you know, during the pandemic, my mother had passed away, and I just was starting to, my job, I had extra work, and I just was feeling all of the pressure, stress, anxiety. And then that's when I, said, you know what, I started overeating. And that's when I said, wait a minute, I have to take a step back that's when I started using your essential oils for aromatherapy. And, I just started doing yoga, meditation, and I just, said I have to stop and make a change right now before I spiral out of control. So, you are just so correct on all levels of what you've been talking about today.
I'm so glad to hear that you did that for yourself, Cynthia, because, I personally think the pandemic allowed a lot of people the opportunity to pause and reevaluate their life, reevaluate, what they do and who they are. Because prior to that, I feel like we were just on this fast-paced society that kept us so busy we couldn't even consider something else. And I full-heartedly believe what you were saying about the percentage of who are more likely to get cancer with stress. And I, as my career in occupational therapy showed me in the medical career, how many disease processes I witnessed, and I could see the correlation between stress and illness. And I've seen it in myself, too. When I didn't perform self-care practices, I got sick so much more. Your immune system, it just totally eats at your immune system. The cortisol raises when you're stressed, and it will break down your immune system. So that is one of my biggest messages, is to please keep your stress in check. Pause, take a minute to reevaluate how you're dealing with it. And if you need help, please reach out, because there's tons of help out there.
And also, you just mentioned, about your immune system. So, with the self-care practice, also aromatherapy, as you mentioned in the beginning, that can help to strengthen our immune system. And I know I've shared this probably, maybe last year, but I remember at the time I was using your immune blend, and my husband got the virus and I didn't get it. And I really believe part of it was the fact that I was using your immune system blend. And, I remember at the time he was just, mocking me out. What are you doing? Are you trying to get high? And I'm like, no, this is not about trying to get high. You can't get high. This is an essential oil. And I truly believe that helps me not get the virus. So it all works in conjunction with each other. And so I really believe, especially, now with the Delta variant, whatever we can do to strengthen our immune system, and that's, whether it's through self-care practices and also through aromatherapy, I think, we just need to do whatever we need to do to stay healthy. And that's for everybody, and those of us that are cancer survivors, and also those that have compromised immune systems. And then in the overall picture, that is just all a part of self-care.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. I have that in the past. So, the immune system. I know other cancer survivors, and I know the vaccine is controversial, and I'm not going to speak on that at all. But I do know cancer survivors who do focus on everything they can to keep their immune system strong. That is definitely the key element to keep cancer and all other disease processes at bay. Is stress and your immune system go hand in hand. So if you can manage your stress better, you will have a stronger immune system. It's pretty simple.
Yes. It sounds so simple, but it's so hard to try to do.
Simple doesn't mean easy.
I know. So then let me ask you this as a final question. What advice would you give for those of us that may be struggling with just trying to maintain some type of self-care?
First of all, because I have so many resources in my group, I would invite you to join my free Facebook group, because I have past recordings. I have, about 20 Self-Care Sunday lives that are archived in the group, so you have access to them. I go live every Sunday free. talking about self-care issues. I bring in guest speakers. I do member spotlight interviews. And when you sign up for the group, you get a free PDF with 5 practices you can do in under 5 minutes, which is a great
beat
place
that.
to start. Yeah.
So what's the
right?
group? What's the group, Stacey?
The group is Personal Power Mastery for Women, and I believe there should be a link with this podcast somewhere.
Yes.
Yes,
okay.
And also I want your listeners to know, if anyone out there is interested in aromatherapy, of course you can reach out to me directly with any questions. I also make custom blends for any specific issues you may have, like sleep or respiratory issues or anything like that. And anyone, who hears about me and my aromatherapy business from your listeners or your group, I'm happy to give you 20% off products on my website with the code 2021LOVE.
2021LOVE. And what's the website? Great. Stacey, it's always a pleasure talking to you. I learned so much from you, and I just want to thank you for coming on to the show and just thank you for the work that you're doing to try to help all of us.
And thank you, Cynthia. Thank you for providing a group and a space for people to go for support and information. I think we're both doing our best to help people out and ourselves at the same time.
Well, hopefully we will talk to each other soon.
Okay. Thanks so much, Cynthia.
Thank you, Stacey. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to Boob Talk, and I'm your host, Cynthia Rogers. Tonight, our special guest, Stacey MCCarthy, she shared with us some self-care practicing tips that can strengthen our immune system, help us mind, body, and soul. She stated that self-care basically starts with our thoughts and our mindset, and sometimes we just maybe need to pause, stop, take a break whenever we're feeling overwhelmed. And I believe that basically is mind over matter. So we just need to also just start to take better care of ourselves, which also in turn helps to strengthen our immune system right now during this time of the Delta variant and all these other illnesses that are going around, and just also to help as a preventative measure, because stress can be a cause for cancer. So we just need to overall learn to take better care of ourselves, and just to know that we can do it. Just take one day at a time. So until next time, God bless. You have been listening to Boob Talk with your host, Cynthia Rogers. Follow us on all podcasting platforms and on Facebook at Boob Talk Podcast Group and Instagram at Cynthia L. Rogers Boob Talk Podcast. Remember, never give up hope.